Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to learn about the functional anatomy of eye. Eye is a special sense organ that is responsible for vision, or you can say that eye is a special sense organ which is used by various animals to see various objects and differentiate their colors. To know about the eye or the functional anatomy of eye, we are going to the first slide. In this slide, we can see that this is the outermost layer of an eyeball. This is the sagittal plane of eyeball, and in sagittal plane of the eyeball, we can see that this is the outermost layer of the eyeball, which is having two parts. The first layer is having two parts, the posterior part and the anterior part. The anterior part is transparent. Light can pass through it, while the posterior part is not transparent. This is made up of fibrous tissue, and it gave protection and boundary to the eyeball. The first layer of the eye is called sclera at the posterior side. This is called sclera, and this is called cornea. At the anterior side, cornea is present, which is transparent. So I am going to write in detail. The first layer is sclera and cornea. Sclera is the posterior part and cornea is the anterior part. The area where the sclera and cornea combine together, the connecting point, this point and this point, the connecting point of the cornea and sclera is called limbus. The connecting point of cornea and sclera is called what? It's called limbus. I'm going to write it, limbus. Similarly, inside the limbus, superiorly inside the limbus, a vein is present or a venous sinus is present. This is a venous sinus which is there for absorption. Venous sinus is there. This venous sinus at the limbus, superiorly at the limbus, a venous sinus, the red color you can see at the limbus, at the connecting point, you can see this venous sinus is called Canal of Schlemm. This is very important for the eye. Canal of Schlemm. Canal of Schlemm is very important. I will describe the function of this Canal of Schlemm later after the 7th slide. So now coming toward the second layer, the first layer actually provide the protection and it provide the boundary. It provide it encloses all the internal parts of the eye. So this is the second layer. In this slide, we can see that this is the second layer of the eyeball. The second layer of the eyeball after the sclera is this is called choroid. This is called what? This is called choroid. Choroid is also important layer because the choroid posteriorly, this layer, this is called choroid. This is called choroid, and the frontal part of the choroid is modified. This part of the choroid is modified, and this modified part of the choroid is called, this is called ciliary body. Ciliary body over here, and over here is the ciliary body. Choroid and ciliary body. Choroid and ciliary body. Ciliary body is also the modified form of second layer. The second layer is the choroid, and choroid is responsible for the provision of nutrition to the eye. It provides the blood supply to the eye, because all the blood vessels, the lymphatic duct goes through this choroid layer into the eye. But this part of the eye is the uh, modified part of this choroid, and this is called ciliary body. This is called ciliary body. So the second layer, the choroid, is responsible for the provision of blood supply to the eye. Now coming toward the third layer is very important. You can see in the blue color the third layer. This is called retina. This is called retina, the third layer of the eye, or the innermost layer of the eye, of the eyeball, which contain photoreceptors, which contain rods and cones. This is called what? This is called retina. Retina is very important layer of the eye. Retina. So retina is there in the eyeball as the innermost layer of the eyeball, and you can see a depression point in the retina just in front of the window. You can see over here this depressed point of the retina. This depressed part of the retina is called macula lutea. This is called what? This is called macula lutea. Macula lutea. The the innermost part of the macula lutea, which is very much depressed. The inner part of the depression of the macula lutea, where there is no rod, where there are only cones. I have told you that the retina contain rods and cones. The retina, or the third layer, contain rod and cone. I will describe in detail about the function of rods and cones, but the whole retina contain rod and cones scattered throughout the retina. But over here, the midpoint of the macula lutea, where there is no rod, there are only cones. This point is called what? This point is called fovea centralis. This point is called fovea centralis. Fovea centralis is the innermost part of the macula lutea, where there is no rod, there are cones only. Now coming toward the next slide. In this slide, we can see that in between the ciliary body, superiorly and inferiorly, in between the ciliary body, there is an oval-shaped structure. You can see an oval shape or biconvex shaped structure. This is called lens. Lens is also an important part of the eye. Lens is always transparent. The lens contain protein arranged just like the leaves of the onion, a transparent protein which is arranged just like the leaves of the onion. That protein is called what? That protein is called crystalline. Crystalline is present. Crystalline is a protein which is present inside the lens, and the lens is always biconvex. The lens is always biconvex in between the ciliary body. But this is not as such. This is attached with the ciliary body with the help of ligaments. This lens is attached with the ciliary body with the help of ligament. I'm going to tell you about the ligament. This is the ligament. This red color is ligament. This ligament attach the lens with the ciliary body. The ciliary body is attached with the lens with the help of ligament. This ligament is called suspensory ligament. Suspensory ligament. Suspensory ligament is there in between the ciliary body and the lens, which give position to the lens, which maintain the lens on its position, and which change the shape of the lens. I will talk about the function of the ciliary body and the ligament, suspensory ligament, in the next slides. Now you can see over here a projection, green color projection. You can see this is not originally green in color, but you can see I have made it in green color. This is Actually, the part of the second layer, the part of the choroid over here, the choroid is modified over here to make ciliary body, and the choroid is modified over here to make iris. This is iris. This is iris. Iris is very important for the eye. And just like the retina, the eye is also very important. The iris is present over here as a modified part of the choroid. Just like the choroid modified over here to make ciliary body, and the choroid is modified over here to make the iris. So the color of the eye is determined by the color of the iris. The color of the eye is determined by the color of the iris. If a man is having blue eyes, it means that the iris is blue in color. If a man is having brown eyes, it means that the iris is brown in color. If the man is having hazel eye, it means that the iris is hazel in color. How the color of the iris changes? The color of the eye changes with the change in the concentration of the change in the concentration of the melanin. It contains melanin. So the melanin is responsible for what? For the color of the eye. If an eye is having, I'm going to write it so that this become very easy for you. The main three colors are there: blue, green, and brown. There are various colors, but I'm mentioning the main colors. The blue. The blue color contain, you can say that it contain no melanin. It contain no melanin. The green color will contain melanin but low melanin. It will contain low quantity of melanin. Similarly, coming toward the brown eyes, the brown eyes are the brownish black color eye which contain large amount of melanin. So if a man is having blue eyes, it means that there is no melanin. If a man is having green eyes, it means that low quantity of melanin is there. If a man is having, if an individual is having brown eyes, it means that large amount of melanin is there. But the green melanin, the green color, the green eyes is having melanin as well as um, a type of pigment that is called lipochrome. The green eyes also contain what? It also contain lipochrome. Along with low quantity of melanin, the green eyes also contain what? It also contain the lipochrome. So the color of the eye uh, is due to the color of the iris, and the color of the iris is due to the quantity of melanin. If an iris is brownish black in color or brownish in color, brown in color, it means that large quantity of melanin is there. If an eye is green in color, it means that the iris is having low quantity of melanin along with lipochrome. And if an eye is having a blue color, it means that there is no melanin, or you can say that negligible amount of melanin should be there, can be there, or could be there in the iris. The green color eyes are usually for the individual of European countries, but it differs from country to country. So now coming toward the next slide. In this slide, we can see that first of all, this slide, the eye is having three major compartments. Three major compartments. This portion, this compartment, and this compartment. This chamber is called anterior chamber. The anterior chamber is anterior to what? Anterior to iris. Anterior to iris. The chamber of the eye which is anterior to iris and which contain aqueous humor, that is called anterior chamber. The chamber which is posterior to iris, which is posterior, this chamber and this chamber. This is one chamber, this chamber and this chamber. This is posterior chamber, and it also contain aqueous humor. Now this chamber, this contain vitreous humor. Vitreous humor. The the chamber posterior to lens is called what? Is called vitreous humor. Or the vitreous chamber. This chamber is called vitreous chamber, and vitreous chamber contain vitreous humor. Um, this this chamber contain fluid. That fluid is called aqueous humor, and this chamber contain a jelly-like substance that is called vitreous humor. And this lens contain transparent protein that is crystalline. uh, I'm going to write in detail the anterior chamber, the posterior chamber, anterior chamber, posterior chamber, and a vitreous chamber. The anterior chamber contain what? It contain aqueous humor. The posterior chamber also contain aqueous humor. This is the anterior chamber. This contain aqueous humor, which is transparent fluid, just like plasma like transparent fluid. The posterior chamber, this is posterior chamber, this chamber and this chamber, these are posterior chambers. This posterior chamber also contain aqueous humor, while the vitreous chamber, the chamber behind the are posterior to the lens. This chamber is called vitreous chamber, and vitreous chamber do not contain fluid. It contain a jelly-like substance that is called vitreous humor. That is jelly-like. That is not fluid. Okay, and this vitreous humor is composed of. I will write the detail. This vitreous humor is composed of water plus collagen plus hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid, water, and collagen make what? A jelly-like substance, and that jelly-like substance is called what? That is called vitreous humor. Now you should be quite clear about the aqueous humor. Aqueous humor is plasma-like, and this is replaced throughout the life, but the vitreous humor is not replaced throughout the life. Also, the protein inside this it also not replaced. This is not replaced. This is not replaced. This is by birth. This is also by birth. This is not replaced, and this is continuously replaced. Now, how from where the aqueous humor is replaced? The aqueous humor is actually synthesized in the capillaries which are present in the ciliary process of the ciliary body. Ciliary process are present at the tip of the ciliary body is called ciliary process. This is the tip of the ciliary body. The projection like tips of the ciliary body is called ciliary process, and the ciliary process contain capillaries. These capillaries produce what? These capillaries produce a plasma-like fluid, a plasma-like transparent fluid. That fluid is called aqueous humor, and that fluid is transferred to the posterior chamber. That fluid is secreted into the posterior chamber over here. That I'm going to magnify that. You can see over here that these projection like part of the ciliary body is called ciliary process. These are called what? Ciliary process. The ciliary process contain capillaries, large number of capillaries, and these capillaries produce what? These secrete what? These secrete aqueous humor, plasma-like fluid into the posterior chamber. This fluid is secreted over here. Fluid is secreted over here. So after a secretion of the fluid by the capillaries of the ciliary process into the posterior chamber, this aqueous humor is transferred to the anterior chamber through this outlet. There is an outlet in between the in between the iris and the lens. This is not always open. This is open when there is need of the aqueous humor to be shifted to the anterior side, and after going to the anterior side, this aqueous humor is transferred to the canal of Schlemm. This is continuously transferred to the canal of Schlemm, and in canal of Schlemm absorb the aqueous humor. Now, once again, the tip of the ciliary body contain the process is called ciliary process. Sorry, the ciliary process contain large number of capillaries, and these capillaries secrete aqueous humor, plasma-like fluid that is called aqueous humor, and that aqueous humor is secreted into the posterior chamber. This is the posterior chamber. From the posterior chamber, the aqueous humor is transferred to the anterior chamber. From the anterior chamber, it goes to the canal of Schlemm and get absorbed. Over here, also the capillaries in the ciliary process secrete the aqueous humor into posterior chamber. It goes to the anterior chamber and then get absorbed into the canal of Schlemm. This is continuously replaced. This is continuously replaced to give nutrition to the surrounding and to wash out all the waste material. So now coming toward the next slide. In this slide, we can see that the posterior chamber is this one. This is the anterior chamber, and this is the vitreous chamber. The vitreous chamber consists of a layer, a transparent layer, which encloses what? This is a transparent layer all around the vitreous chamber. All around the vitreous chamber there is a transparent layer, and that layer is called what? That is called Halide membrane. A membrane is there to enclose the vitreous humor. A membrane is there to enclose the vitreous humor. This membrane, this is one membrane, one structure. It encloses the vitreous humor. This membrane is called Halide membrane, and this Halide membrane is having uh, a canal in the middle. This Halide membrane is having a canal in the middle that is called Halide canal. What is the function of this canal? I am going to tell you. So first of all, you should learn that a Halide membrane is there which encloses the jelly-like fluid, the jelly-like substance, the vitreous humor. It encloses the vitreous humor, but in the middle of this balloon-like structure, this make a balloon-like structure, and in the middle of this balloon-like structure, in the middle of this Halide membrane, there is a canal. That canal is called Halide canal. I'm going to write it. Halide membrane and Halide canal. Halide membrane and Halide canal are there. This Halide canal, what is the function of this Halide canal? This is very important. You should be quite clear about this. Before the birth of the baby, before the formation of very structures inside the eye, what happened? Before the formation of these structure inside the eye, there is a blood vessel which go through the middle to this area to supply large amount of blood supply to this area. So in the embryonic stage of the baby, in the embryonic stage of the infant, in the embryonic stage of the offspring, inside the womb, inside the uterus of the mother, the eye contain a blood vessel over here. In the middle of the vitreous humor there is a blood vessel, and that blood vessel supply blood to this area of the eye. What is the function of this blood vessel? Sorry, to provide uh, to to provide nutrition to this area for maturity, to get matured, to differentiate, to make structure inside the eye. And after maturity, after the formation of very structure inside the eye, what happens? When the child become mature, into the when the fetus become matured, the eye also become matured, and the vein inside, in the middle of this chamber, in the middle of this chamber, the blood vessel get disappeared. The blood vessel get disappeared, and that blood vessel which get disappeared, leave a canal of halide membrane, and that canal is called canal that is called Halide Canal. There is no more blood vessel or hair in the middle because the blood vessel has been disappeared. The blood vessel has been phagocytized. That has been disappeared from the eye because there is no more need of the blood vessel or hair to make various structure. The structure has already been formed and produced by the blood vessel, by the blood supply. So there is no more blood need of the blood supply to this area, so the blood vessel is disappeared, which leave a canal like structure in the middle of the vitreous chamber. That canal is called Halide Canal. So you should be quite clear about the pupil. What is pupil? Pupil is the area in between the gap in between the iris, or the gap in the middle of the iris. That gap is called what? That gap is called pupil. Pupil is there in the front of the gap in the front of the lens in between the iris. This is called what? This is called pupil. Pupil is the window of the eye. This is the window of the eye. There is no physique, there is no physical structure of the pupil, but pupil is the gap in between the lens, in between the iris. Now, the second layer of the eye, this second layer of the eye, this is called choroid. The modified part of the choroid or hair is called ciliary body. It's called ciliary body, and the modified projection of this is called iris. The combination of ciliary body and the choroid, ciliary body, and iris is combinedly known as uvea. 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 Uvea is the combination of what? Of choroid plus ciliary body plus iris. The combination of these three is called uvea. Okay, the point where the this retina, the point where the retina get combined with this layer, this point, this junction point, or this junction point where it combined with the choroid, this junction point is called ora serrata. This junction point is called what? This junction point is called ora serrata. I am going to write it. Ora serrata. Ora serrata. It gives serrate like appearance. That's why this is called ora serrate. I have not made that serrate like appearance, but the point where the retina combine with or join the second layer of the eye, or the middle layer of the eye, where the retina combine with the choroid. This point, this junction point, and this junction point is called ora serrata. Now coming toward the next point, this the eye also contain over here the eyelid, which is to enclose or cover the eye during sleeping, to cover the eye during dust, to cover the eye during various condition. So this is called eyelid. This is called the upper eyelid, and over here is the lower eyelid. The upper eyelid is called superior palpebra, and the lower eyelid is called inferior palpebra, and inferior palpebra. Superior palpebra and inferior palpebra mean upper eyelid and lower eyelid. In between the superior palpebra, over here you can see that there is another projection over here, just like this projection over here, in between the eyeball, in between the choroid, in between the cornea and eyelid, in between the cornea and palpebra, there is a projection, there is a membrane like projection. You can see this projection. This projection is called nictitating membrane. This is very important for the animals. This is very important for the animals. Why this is important? Nictitating membrane. Unfortunately, this is not functional in human. This is functional in some animals and some birds. And the majority of birds this is functional, and some animals also this is functional. But in human this is not functional. What is the function of this? This is a transparent membrane which can be which can cover the eye, during various conditions. For example, you can see in this slide this membrane. This is the upper eyelid and this is the lower eyelid. In between the upper eyelid and lower eyelid, this membrane is there. You can see this membrane. This membrane is called nictitating membrane. This nictitating membrane is there in the majority of birds. And what is the function of this nictitating membrane? If a bird is going to dip in the water, so it covers the eye with the help of nictitating membrane to see through it, but not to affect the cornea, not to affect the surface of the eye. Or during storm, during fast wind, or during dusty environment, it also cover the eye to avoid the dust particle to get in contact with the eye. So now this is an eagle, and this is now facing fast air. This is now facing the fast air, so the fast air is not going to strike the eye because it has covered the frontal side of the eye with the help of nictitating membrane. This is very important for the birds especially, and also for the reptiles and sea animals. So the scientists are working on this nictitating membrane to get functional. A lot of scientists are working on this and the genes of this nictitating membrane to get functional, to utilize this membrane. This is present in the human, but this is not functional. So this was the nictitating membrane. The next one, the another transparent membrane which is covering the nictitating membrane, which is covering the lower which is covering the under part of the lower part of what up, upper eyelid, which is also covering the cornea. This membrane, this transparent membrane is called conjunctiva. This transparent membrane, this blue color membrane, this is called what? This is called conjunctiva. This is conjunctiva, which is covering the lower part of the upper eyelid, and which is also covering the nictitating membrane. This is also covering the cornea. So this is called conjunctiva. Conjunctiva. Conjunctiva is there. The conjunctiva on the eyelid is called palpebral conjunctiva, and the conjunctiva on the eye, on the bulb, on the cornea, that is called bulbar conjunctiva. Bulbar conjunctiva and palpebral conjunctiva. I'm going to write it again. Bulbar and palpebral conjunctiva. Two types of conjunctiva are there, one on the bulb, one on the palpebra. So bulbar conjunctiva and palpebral conjunctiva. Now coming towards the next slide. In this slide we can see that the very important part of the eye, that is the which contain photoreceptor, that is retina. Retina contain large number of rods and cones. Large number of rods and cones, but the fovea centralis do not contain any rod. The cones are of three types. Three types of cones are there. I'm going to write it. The cones and rods and cones. The cones are of three types: the red color cones, the green color cones, and the blue color cones. That is not blue in color, that is not red in color, and that is not green in color, but that is the cone which is sensitive to red light is called red cone, and the cone which is sensitive to green light is called green cone, and the cone which is sensitive to blue light is called blue cone. So and you can see over here that the retina contain large number of cones, but the fovea centralis only contain green and red color cone. There is no blue color cone inside this part. Inside the fovea centralis, the fovea centralis contain large number of cone but no rod. In the next slide I'm going to talk about the rods, but in this slide we can see that three types of cones are there: the blue cone, the red cone, and the green cone. The green and red cones are concentrated in the fovea centralis, while the blue cone are over there throughout the throughout the retina. The blue cones are there, but there is no blue cone in the fovea centralis. In the fovea centralis only red and green cones are there. In this slide we can see that the rods are there throughout the retina, but over here there is no rod. The rod is black in color. I have made the rod black in color, but this is actually pink in color. The rod are having pinkish color, pinkish red color, but I have made it black in color. Throughout the retina there are rods. The rods are concentrated at the interior side of the retina. The rods are concentrated at the posterior side of the retina. There is low quantity of rods, but there is no rod at the fovea centralis, just like the blue cone. There is no rod inside the fovea centralis. The rods and cones. The rods contain a special type of protein plus derivative of vitamin A. That protein that is called rhodopsin. Rhodopsin. Special type of pigment. This is actually pigment. The rod contain a pigment that is called rhodopsin, and that is the combination of protein. The rhodopsin is the combination of protein plus vitamin A derivative. The vitamin A derivative is retinol, and the protein is scotopsin. Combination of scotopsin and retinol make what? Rhodopsin. And rhodopsin are the pigment of the pinkish color pigment of the rods, which are active at night, which is responsible for black and white vision, which is responsible for night vision, and cones are responsible for daylight vision. For the colored vision, cones are responsible. The cones contain, as I have told you, that the cone could either be red or green or blue. And why the color of the cone has been specified over here? Because the red cone is called porphyropsin. Porphyropsin. Similarly, the green color cone, is called iodopsin. Iodopsin is the cone which is green cone, which is responsible for the green light, which is responsible for the absorption of green light, and which is sensitive to green light. That is called iodopsin. This is not green in color, but this is sensitive to green light. That is called iodopsin. And the cone which is sensitive to red light, that is called porphyropsin. And the cone which is sensitive to blue light is called synopsin. I will talk about the cones and rods in the process of vision in detail, but you should learn about the rod and cone, that the green and red color cones are there in the fovea centralis, and the red color cone contain the pigment. That pigment is called porphyropsin. The green color pigment contain iodopsin, and the blue color pigment contains synopsin, and the rods contain rhodopsin. All of these contain vitamin A plus protein. Vitamin A derivative is always there in the red, in the green, in the blue, just like the rhodopsin. But I will tell about the detail in the next lecture. Now coming towards the next slide. In this slide, we can see that the eye contain. This is what. This is iris. The iris contain two types of muscle. In fact, inside the whole ball of the eye, inside the eyeball, this is the eyeball. Inside the eyeball, there are three types of muscles. Three types of muscles are there. Two types of muscles are present in the iris, and one type of muscle is present in the ciliary body. What type of iris? What type of muscle iris contain? This is iris. From this area to this area, this is iris. And in between the iris, this part, this it shows this area which is in dark, which is always in dark. That is why it always appear dark in color. But um, if you get your eyes in front of torch, then you will see this deep red in color, because it shows the blood vessel inside our hair, the blood vessel inside the eye. Oftenly you will have seen some pictures, some images of individual in which the eyes appear, the middle of the eye appear red in color, because the flash of the light of the camera, when it strike upon this window, and when it strike on these blood vessel, the middle of the eye or the pupil appear red in color in that condition. But the pupil always appear black in color. The pupil always appear black in color. But if you apply flash on this point, then you can see this as red in color. The this is the pupil, this is the pupil, and this is the iris. From this boundary to this boundary, this is iris. Iris contain two types of muscle. One is the circular smooth muscle, and the other is the radial muscle, which I have drawn in different colors for simplicity. The radial muscles and the circular smooth muscle. The radial smooth muscles are there for the constriction of pupil, to make the diameter of the pupil smaller, and the radial smooth muscles are there to make the diameter of the pupil greater. It dilate the pupil. This muscle dilate the pupil. It make the window larger, but this muscle make the window smaller. It constrict the pupil. Two types of muscles are there inside the pupil: the circular smooth muscles and the circular smooth muscles and radial smooth muscle. In the center, the circular smooth muscles are there, and laterally the radial smooth muscles are there. Radial smooth muscles is for mydriasis, or for dilation of the pupil, and circular smooth muscles is for constriction of pupil. One is for dilation of pupil and one is for constriction of pupil. This is for constriction of pupil and this is for dilation of pupil. Because this goes radially, this goes laterally and make the diameter larger. Over here, this is the circular smooth muscle. This red color represent the circular smooth muscle, and this green color represent the radial smooth muscle. Once again, over here you can see the muscles in the ciliary body. The muscles in the ciliary body are called ciliary muscle. The muscles in the ciliary body are called ciliary muscle. And ciliary muscle, what is the function of ciliary muscle? The function of the ciliary muscle is to make the shape of the lens accommodating for the picture, accommodating for the image. It changes the shape of the lens. This ciliary muscle is responsible to change the shape of the lens to accommodate the object. The reflection of the object throws upon what? Upon the lens. And uh, if if someone is very near to this lens, if someone or if an object is very near to this lens, then this lens will going to be convex, more convex. How this lens will be going to more convex? when when the when this muscle when these muscle contract when these muscle contract, when the radial muscle contract, this area, this push the second layer towards this side, and this will also push the second layer towards the middle. When it pushed the second layer towards the middle, and when it pushed the second layer toward the towards what? Toward the lens, it will make it more convex, it will make it more circular, it will make it more convex, so it will accommodate the near object. And if an object is very far from the eye, then this muscle, this sorry, this ciliary muscle will relax. When this ciliary muscle get relaxed, what will happen? This second layer will go farther, this second layer will also goes farther, and by going this area farther, and by going this area farther, the this this suspensory ligament will be going tight. It will be going tight, and after getting tight, what will happen? The This will become flattened, or this will goes towards the concave pattern. This will not go toward, this will not become concave, but it will go to get flattened, not convex. This will get flattened, and when it get flattened, it can accommodate the farther object. Okay, this was all about today's lecture.